welcome back to another episode of Jections. We're here to break down Inter's 5-0 win over Frosinone. I'm your host, Andrew. I've got Irfan, Miko, and Jay with me. Irfan, what's happening?
Hey, doing well. Happy Mother's Day to all two of our female listeners. Hope everyone's enjoying the day. And I think Mother's Day is a thing in more than just the U.S. But if anybody is celebrating, Happy Mother's Day and happy celebrating Inter back on the winning bounce again. So yeah, doing well.
Yeah, I'm confident we don't have any female listeners. Miko, is Mother's Day a thing in Finland?
Yeah, it is. And actually, I checked, and Spotify Analytics say that we have 8% female listeners in Spotify. So that's
Okay, I apologize to our female audience, and we're happy to have you.
That's about 8% is about two people.
I think it's a bit more, but yeah, pretty good.
Jay, what's up?
Yeah, doing well, thanks. I would also like to wish a happy Mother's Day to all of your mothers, and all the mothers of the people listening. No, I'm kidding. That was rude of me. Yeah, looking forward to discussing the game. I woke up about 35 minutes into the first half. I watched from the 35th minute to the 45th minute, and then I fell asleep again and missed the entire second half. So I had to do the thing which I deplore more than anything else in the world, which is watching a football match after the fact. But I did it so that, I wouldn't be completely talking out of my ass. It did occur to me to just not mention that I hadn't watched the match and just pretend like I did, but that would be dishonest. And if there's one thing I'm known for, it's integrity and accurate betting tips. So yeah, let's get into it.
Yes, you cannot disappoint our Interjections listeners like that. They demand top quality content, and that's what we deliver. So, the 5-0 scoreline, very flattering. This was not a 5-0 type game. Frosinone were in it. Frosinone were creating chances. They had a post. Summer had a spectacular save diving to his right. But nonetheless, we get the job done with pretty much half our starters in the game. We returned to the likes of Barella in the starting lineup. We returned to the likes of Summer in the starting lineup. But we gave Frattesi another start. We gave Asllani another start. Believe it or not, Arnautovic was on the pitch, even though you wouldn't know it. So, Irfan, what did you think? From a performance standpoint, definitely a step above the Sassuolo match. They get the result, obviously, but it wasn't as pretty as the scoreline indicates, was it?
No, it wasn't. But again, I think, going back to what we were talking about in the last episode, I think I was definitely in the camp of the people who wanted to see more of a rotation and, giving more of our younger players a chance. And it looks like, Inzaghi did that. This was also, I think, one of the first matches probably in the history of this year's Inter where Mkhitaryan didn't start. And going back to one of the things that I've been talking about, I was very curious to see Asllani play in the midfield with Barella. And obviously, he's not going to really play with Hakan, but I think him playing with Barella definitely made a bit of a difference. I think we clicked a lot better in the midfield. In general, I thought Asllani played better too. So again, it was good to see some rotation. I think Arnautovic was still relatively frustrating. Thuram starting, I think, gave us a bit of a spark. And it kind of goes back to another narrative that we've talked about a little bit, which is that whenever Sanchez seems to start for us, he never does that well or is as effective as when he, sometimes comes off the bench. So I think a lot of what we saw in this match was kind of typical Inter in some ways. What wasn't typical Inter was Buchanan getting on the score sheet, doing his best Alphonso Davies impression and scoring a great goal, kind of isolated on the wing. So that was definitely nice to see. I think from an Inter fan perspective, the match was as good as we could expect, given the heavy rotation, given the presence of kind of the second squad players. And yeah, it wasn't by all means that great, but we saw Bissek as well, and I don't know. It was kind of promising to see. It was kind of nice. It was like a fun match, I would say, even if we weren't as ruthlessly efficient or compact as we typically are.
Definitely, and it was nice to see these guys get minutes. It was nice to see them play well, especially after how poorly some of them played last week when they were given similar chances. Miko, what did you think of Summer's performance? There were some people saying he's the true man of the match in this game because of those critical saves he made before we put the game to bed. If you're looking for a man of the match, you could also look at Frattesi, who gets the early, albeit very awkward goal. He just seems to always have a nose for goal. He also had an assist later in the match. So where would you go from a man of the match perspective?
Well, yeah, Sommer was there to save the day when it was needed. But I don't know. Usually, I'm not giving maybe the man of the match award to the goalie unless we're like totally bombarded. Uh, Frosinone, they had some chances, but I think they like 3 crossbars or something. Was it one of the was a post hit? But anyway, he was good. But maybe for me it's Frattesi. He he did his thing, which is just run to the box and ball is coming there and he's putting the ball to the net or then he assisted the Arnautovic goal was the other one. I think that was the 2-0 goal, if I'm not mistaken. So it was like two most important goals for us. After that, it felt like Frosinone. Well, they didn't like gave it up, but it was pretty close. At least after the 3-0 goal, then it was just us scoring goals when we wanted. But yeah, I think for me it goes to Frattesi.
So Lautaro finally breaks his scoreless drought. I think he had not scored a league goal since like February. Goes ahead, gets on the scoreboard. I was joking about it earlier. Arnautovic did actually score in this match, which maybe speaks to how poor of quality Frosinone are if they allow both Lautaro to break his goalless drought and Arnautovic to score. Jay, just curious your thoughts on Lautaro's performance off the bench and just overall. Do you think he's going to get a couple more now before the end of the league wraps up? And do you think, more importantly, that it's important he scores heading into next season from a confidence perspective? Or do you think once we get to next season, it's a whole new ball game and these last few matches won't matter towards his confidence?
Bit of both. I think it's always a new day when you start a new season. Players go on holiday and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if Lautaro is involved in any international football in the break either.
I think they have Copa America.
Copa America.
They do,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Well, he's not going to play anyway because he's lost his place to Julian Alvarez, so no need to worry about that. And, look, Lautaro, as far as I'm concerned, is like Schrodinger's cat, both dead and alive, both in a drought and not in a drought at all times. So unless he's actively scoring, he's in a drought as far as I'm concerned. So he took a brief respite from his goal drought to score against Frosinone. A very, very nice low finish into the corner with his left foot. And as far as I'm concerned, he's back on his drought until he scores again, hopefully next week. So, yeah, a bit of both. Also like to quickly touch upon what you said earlier about Frosinone's general performance. They were really good. And, it's hard to say that without sounding like you're being pandering or like you're being, what's the word? Patronizing to a team that you just beat 5-0. But yeah, I thought Frosinone were really good. Even like the goals that we scored, they all felt like kind of random instances rather than the result of a sustained and continuous domination that we inflicted. Sommer's performance was very good. Made that critical save of Brescianini, I believe former Milan player, if I'm not mistaken. And I was going to say, Darmian was kind of shockingly absent. I honestly did not know he played until the halftime break when I saw him come off. It was only then when I was like, wait a minute, who is on the right flank? Because I just didn't see us played on that flank at all. And you saw how much more we played down the right when Quadrado came on. Overall, with regards to Frattesi, I think he showed a bit more ability in his passing this time around. People tend to criticize his involvement in his overall play, and there's definitely a reason for that. Barella, despite kind of lots of little cheap giveaways and stuff, you could see that there's that kind of midfield generalship in him, whereas Frattesi isn't really that kind of player. Having said that, I thought today was an improvement in his passing, in his distribution, in his overall midfield engagement. So that was encouraging to see, and that goes without saying. Obviously, his two contributions as well. Thuram had a really nice finish, which was good to see, and that kind of intelligent, kind of strategic finish is something I always appreciate when it comes to strikers, as opposed to just kind of instinctively just hoofing the ball as certain strikers in our team tend to do. And the last shout out I'll give is to Bisek, who I thought was really good. He didn't look out of place despite having not played for about a month or so. Sorry, he was able to mark his man tightly and almost scored another goal, which would have been 3 for him. So, yeah, good performance all around.
I want to talk a little bit more about Frattesi. Someone shared a graphic that basically shows Frattesi's per 90-minute statistics when it comes to things like goals and assists and expected goals are in the 99th percentile. So his involvement in our goal scoring is uncanny given how few minutes he plays. And on the flip side, where he maybe struggles is more on the defensive side. His tackles, his interceptions, his blocks are all really low in the, I'm talking 13th, 10th percentile when it comes to his per 90-minute stats. This was his first game in a while where he's gotten minutes with Barella as opposed to being Barella's replacements. So, Miko, what was your takeaway from Frattesi's performance? Do you think this is a future path for us where we can get away with a midfield of Barella on the left, Frattesi on the right, with whomever at central midfield? Or do you think this is just one good game against a poor opponent?
Yeah, I wouldn't draw too many conclusions out of this match, but I think this combination you mentioned, Barella on the left and Frattesi on the right, that's maybe the one we want to try if we want to use Frattesi from the start. But I think using Frattesi as a starter, it requires us to play a bit different style because he's not that used to all the movement which is required from our midfielders. I think it was a bit better this in this match as mentioned, but I think he's still learning it a bit, and his strengths are elsewhere anyway, like storming the box. And as you mentioned about the stats, he's usually came in at the times when we need goals. Okay, maybe not like most of the times, but when he's been scoring goals, I think it's been usually when we needed them. But I have to say that's out of my head. Like I have no stats backing that that claim. But but I think he's very valuable to this team in general. Maybe not as a starter, but as a player the coach can use in certain situations, and I feel that he's going to learn to play in a way we've used to play, but we can't force him to a certain player type which he's not. So I think we should adjust a bit based on that when we have him on the pitch. I think that's how we should use him, because he has this natural instinct of scoring goals and how to get to the scoring positions, like we saw in this match. The first goal, I don't know, it kind of came out of nowhere and it didn't look too easier to too clear chance, but that's just how he does it. He's really good in that. And his stats, as you mentioned, the stats he has in the whole season, he has 8 goals and 6 assists, and that's pretty impressive given he hasn't played even uh, like 1,500 minutes. It's less than that. So to me, that's impressive for sure.
So to maybe put a recap around this Frosinone game, just Irfan, as you look at these guys who played who normally don't play, I'm talking Asllani, Frattesi, Bisek, the likes. Which one of these guys do you think is the most important long-term piece for us? If we're looking at the next couple of matches, like who is the most critical we get more minutes for? I might be setting you up for a trap here with Asllani being a candidate, but find your honest opinion on who you think is the most important long-term piece.
Look, I'm nothing if I'm not objective and measured and honest. So I'm going to say it's definitely Asllani. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my god!
It's I honestly, I think it's Bisek. I think Bisek has been incredibly impressive this season, especially for a player with, I think, for most fans, very low expectations. And he filled in at some very critical moments this season with key injuries and suspensions, and he played really well. Now, I think the reason he probably doesn't get as much praise and attention from Inter fans as maybe he should is because we're pretty deep at those positions. And I think we're largely deep at those positions because of players like Bisek, for example. But I think in his kind of tenure this year, whenever he's played, he's been so impressive. And I think not just impressive from a purely like tactical defensive positioning kind of standpoint, like, making the tackles, being in the right position, helping out the defense. He's also really impressive on the ball. Like the way he's so comfortable on the ball. He's good going forward. He honestly reminds me a little bit from a skill set perspective of Bastoni. Like maybe he doesn't pick out that final pass, that final ball as well as Bastoni does. I think that's something Bastoni is probably one of the world's best at from a defensive standpoint. But I think Bisek is incredibly promising. And, I think one of the things that we're pretty good at is finding veteran stopgap solutions at center back. But Bisek seems to be the kind of player that gives us the luxury to not have to spend that big. Now, I think the one concern with Bisek is that it seems like we need more help at the center back position than we do at the right center back or left center back position going into next year. But there's no reason to think that him or Pavard can't play in that position. There's a good argument to be made that it's not best suited for them and takes some of their skill set away. But I think overall, of all the players we've seen, Bisek has been the most important, and at a position that is very critical in the Inzaghi system. Like obviously, you can say the same thing for Asllani, but I think that Bisek, just given what the expectations were for him, has been incredibly effective and been very impressive. I think most of us expected really good things from Frattesi, and we're seeing that in a lot of cases. Like he's, like we talked about a little bit, like he's limited in certain ways, but man, as a goal scorer and as the kind of midfielder that you want to attack the box, like very like opportunistically, like his anticipation of when we might be in a position to launch something into the box is really good as a midfielder. It's like one of those things where like, he has these like innate instincts position wise to like make himself available in key moments in the box. And that's something, to be very honest, Hakan, Barella, and Mkhitaryan don't do nearly as well as they should, given their skill level. So I give a lot of props to Frattesi too. I give a props to Asllani. I've defended him all season, but I think Bisek to me has been the most important and probably the most promising player going forward in the future.
Not Buchanan.
I'd like to see more of Buchanan. He had a great goal. He seems very excited when he's on the pitch. I think there's some potential there with Buchanan, to be perfectly honest, but not nearly as much yet.
Well,
Yeah.
you do. Inzaghi does not. We'll get into it. No, Bisek's best game this year, honestly, might be his performance against Atletico, where he was one of the only players in extra time actually putting in an honest effort and trying to propel us to victory. And we really had forced him out wide to wing back for a large portion of that extra time. So I'm curious to see what people want to do with him next year, if they want to loan him out, if they want to keep him. But we'll get into that next week on the Defenders recap. Right now, it's time for the Wingbacks recap. And I think this is going to be a long discussion because this might be the most volatile position in the squad as we head into next season. So I want to start with stability. I want to start with safety. I want to start on the left-hand side where things seem settled for the most part until we get into maybe some of the depth pieces. But it all starts with Dimarco, who once again had a very solid season. You can probably make an argument this guy's the best left wing back in the world, or one of the best left wing backs in the world, which was an argument I was not willing to make 2 years ago.
Teo Hernandez.
I will let that remark slide. So you can make an argument he's one of the best left wing backs in the world. And then, of course, you had Augusto come in to replace Gosens. And I'm really curious to get, Jay, your thoughts on what Augusto has meant to the squad, how he compares to what we were getting from Gosens when Gosens was available. And just, I saw he was left out of the Brazil squad heading into Copa America. But just, what do you think the long-term trajectory of this guy is? And, is this someone you want to see keep around for a long time as a reserve wingback? Do you think he's eventually going to challenge DeMarco for a starting spot? What do you think?
I think Inter is but a poor man's Leverkusen, and by extension, Dimarco is a poor man's Grimaldo. No, I'm kidding. With regards to Augusto, as much as I like the guy, I honestly don't think he's been any better or worse than Gosens. Like Gosens has or had a better goal contribution rate, if I'm not mistaken. I think Augusto scored only once in the Coppa Italia. He's come close a couple of times, but Gosens had a knack for goal and scored some really nice goals for us and had a bunch of assists as well. So, when you compare the two, kind of takes me back to, I guess, the feeling of Gosens was just the wrong guy at the wrong time or in the wrong place at the wrong time. And I kind of feel the same way about Augusto, but just given his profile, given the amount that we spent on him and all this kind of stuff, I feel like he's I feel less bad about keeping Carlos Augusto on the bench compared to Gosens. I also like his versatility, of course, that he can play at left centre back to an extent, and that's something that Gosens couldn't do. So yeah, I like the player, and I'm disappointed for him that he didn't make the cut for the Brazilian national team, which is strange because that team is full of shitters that I've never even heard of. But whatever. Anyway, yeah, as far as I'm concerned, the left flank is pretty much a lock for next season. Dimarco will stay, of course, and be our starter. Augusto is unlikely to attract any offers that we would consider. I mean, what are we getting for like roughly 15 million? Am I right? Like we'd probably have to be offered something north of 25-ish to even consider it. But at that point, like, what's the point, or that kind of price point, really? What's the point? So I see him sticking around for at least next season, if not longer. And yeah, hopefully that left flank kind of largely stays untouched. And I guess today or yesterday was Buchanan's best showing as like the third choice left back as well. So, if he can continue to develop a little bit, then, we might even have three semi kind of viable options on the left. So we're in a good spot on that flank. The right, a little bit less so, but we'll get into that.
I want to briefly mention you had a good point about the comparison to Gosens, that I feel that when we signed Gosens, he was, I think he was signed to be the replacement for Perisic, and then it never like worked out too well. And then Dimarco kind of took the spot, and Inzaghi just couldn't use Gosens because Dimarco was so good, and he like took the starting spot. And then I think it was partly Gosens also wanting to leave to play more to be the starter, and Augusto is more like he's just happy that he is at a club like Inter, and he's ready. he's like ready to serve whenever necessary, but he's not that type of a guy or player who's like not content if he's not playing enough. And actually, he's been playing pretty much because he's been playing as the center back as well, left center back. So that's the plus for his versatility. But yeah, go on, Andrew.
No, I was just gonna say it's funny looking at Gosens' performance for Union Berlin this year because he is scoring a lot more and he scores at a higher clip than he's honestly scores at a similar clip to DeMarco. And it's because Gosens is playing his first full season in almost 4 years because he was injured. And then, like you said, he couldn't wrestle the job away from DeMarco. So he has 6 goals, which I think DeMarco has like 5. And obviously, it's maybe apples to oranges comparing the Bundesliga to our league. But could Gosens have been a top wingback for us if we just gave him the full-time position and let him run with it? I like to think the answer is yes. But Gosens also had fitness issues he could never quite fully get over when he was here. So it's hard to truly compare and contrast them. But I think, Miko, you hit the nail on the head when you said Augusto is our reserve left center back. And him being our reserve left center back is why we kind of keep seeing these Buchanan at left wing back hopes and dreams from Inzaghi, I think. So I want to pull up a quote now from Inzaghi's post-game press conference. The Italian media, who are big fans of interjections, they listen to our podcast all the time. They finally asked the question that was on all of our minds, and they asked Inzaghi why Buchanan keeps playing on the left. And the quote was, "On the left, he gives us something different. On the right, I have many options. Buchanan has excellent dribbling skills and excellent right foot, and I'm trying him on the left. When Augusto plays in defense, I have no alternative for DeMarco. I put Buchanan there, and he's done a wonderful job." So, Irfan, we've talked a lot about this on this podcast.
Bullshit.
Buchanan's natural position is on the right. As Jay was saying, it doesn't really make a lot of sense, especially when it's not like either DeMarco or Augusto has been injured at all. And our right wing back options, which we'll get into, are a bit older, a bit redundant. So we didn't really talk about his performance against Frosinone too much. If you want to hit on that, feel free. But just curious if you see this guy, based on Inzaghi's latest quotes, if he's actually going to be a full-time left wing back next season.
Yeah, which again doesn't really make a lot of sense. That quote from Inzaghi was like quite puzzling. I didn't understand. I had to read it like 3 times to understand what he was trying to say because it just didn't really make a lot of sense. I mean, I thought Buchanan, when he came in, he played well. Like, I get Inzaghi's point that, you know, he wants to see him almost like an inverted wing back, but like it still doesn't make a lot of sense considering the relative strength we have on the left side versus the right side, and the manner in which Buchanan was purchased was, you know, when Cuadrado was basically injured for the long term. And it's just kind of funny and ironic that, like, you know, Buchanan's getting time to play now at the same time that, like, you know, Buchanan's getting time to play now at the same time that, like, Cuadrado is like becoming more available to play. And so I just don't really get what Inzaghi views him as. If you take the quote at face value, like, I guess, but I still don't really see why you would continue to play him on the left. Like, he should just be playing on the right. So I don't know. The whole thing is kind of puzzling to me, but as long as he keeps getting minutes and he keeps showing that, you know, he can contribute and add some value, I think it's important to keep him around because, these positions are pretty demanding for Inzaghi. He never really ends the match with the same two wingbacks that started the match. He always subs them out. So we're going to need options there. I still don't think Cuadrado can be relied on. So I don't know. I feel like Buchanan will stick around and probably will have a role to play next year. But Inzaghi's view of him is still quite puzzling to me.
Absolute peak Inzaghi is subbing on Cuadrado at the half to get the man 45 minutes of football when he has absolutely zero future at this club. Just peak stuff there.
The sense in the comment is what we've been talking here earlier, that Buchanan brings something different to our game, which is like you mentioned, the inverted right foot on the left flank, because we've had the left-footed players on the left flank to provide the crosses, but then Buchanan is brought in to play a bit different style, to like cut into the middle and like he did in the goal. So I think that's the sense in this kind of a way he uses Buchanan. And we've been talking about this exactly same thing in this podcast before, and Inzaghi just said how we've been talking, that something different. That's the point.
So the left side we expect to be mostly settled heading into next season. We're not expecting any changes between Dimarco, Augusto, and who knows what happens with Buchanan. But we're expecting a lot of changes on the right. You have Dumfries, whose contract expires 1 summer from now. He has still not agreed to an extension with the club. Cuadrado's contract is set to expire. And you have Darmian, who we've talked quite a bit about, as isn't really suited for a right wing back role at this point in his career. So, Jay, I want to start with you on Dumfries. What is your predicted exit price for this guy? What do you think we're going to get for him, assuming we go ahead and sell him? And I guess I'll give you the opportunity, if for some reason you want to argue Cuadrado or Darmian should resume playing right wing back for us. Would love to hear that argument.
I don't have any argument for Cuadrado or Darmian, really. Cuadrado needs to leave, and I'm hoping that he will. Darmian, as you said, should be a reserve right centre back at this point, but just given how we operate with regards to budget and how we choose to spend our budget across different positions and different prioritizations, it wouldn't surprise me to see us keep either Darmian or Cuadrado. Cuadrado is a free agent, and I can't imagine he's going to find any other club that's going to pay him anything near what we're paying him. So if we offered another year-long reduced deal, I wouldn't be surprised. Oh, well, firstly, I wouldn't be surprised to see us do that, and I wouldn't be surprised if he accepted it. Likewise, Darmian's already been renewed anyway, and he has value to the coach in that he can play these multiple positions on the right flank, and this allows the management to essentially spend the money elsewhere. So, all this is kind of under the assumption that Dumfries stays, which I think is actually the most likely scenario. I don't think we're going to be offered anything close to what we want for Dumfries, which I mean, the realistic side of me is saying like 25 million is a realistic price, but you'd think you'd want more. You know what I mean? I mean, the guy's a national team player for the Netherlands. I imagine he's going to be soon made redundant by Frimpong, but he is currently the starter. Whenever he plays for the national team, he seems to have a fairly regular involvement with goals and assists. And he's, a Serie winner and has been playing at the top flight of Italian football for a couple of years now. So when you look at those kind of what do you want to call them, qualifications, this isn't a player that should be cheap. This is a player that could easily play for pretty much most top 6 teams in any league in the world. Like when you think about right wingbacks or right backs who are better than Dumfries, yeah, there's plenty, but most of them are already at like the biggest teams in the world. And so let's just say you're I don't know, a Man United or something, and you're looking at right wing backs, you probably want to move on from the likes of Dalot and Wan-Bissaka, and maybe Dumfries presents a more attractive option to you. I don't know. And if that was the case, then as an Inter fan, you'd think 25 million is a bit shit. So it's a difficult situation on the right flank. But ultimately, I think, like I said, we're not going to get above 30, 35 for him. I'd be extremely surprised if anyone offered 30, let alone anything over. So I think at this point, unless we get like a 30 million plus offer, we just have to keep him. He fits well with the team. The guys seem to like him. Obviously, there are immense frustrations with the way he plays and his limitations sometimes, but I think all in all, we've gotten decent value for money from Dumfries, and I have trouble finding very many right wing backs who would be available within our budget. It's probably not. Or is it? I'd want to get your guys' opinion on this. Is right back or right wing back a top priority position for recruitment this summer? Because yeah, I don't know. As much as I like the idea on upgrading to Dumfries, and as much as I'm still traumatized by having downgraded downgraded to Dumfries from such a mercurial talent like Hakimi, I gotta say, just like gone to my head, it just doesn't seem like the number one position for reinforcement for me right now.
I just don't think a club in our position can afford to let a player walk for free. So you need to do the opposite of what you did with Skriniar, which is either you are extending Dumfries this summer or you're selling him.
Yeah,
You can't let him wind down his contract. And if we're talking about choosing to sell him, then of course right wing back becomes a priority. And I'd honestly prefer we find an agreement with him to extend him because I think he's a good player. He's not a perfect right wing back, but he's more than qualified enough to continue being our starting right wing back on the team. And if extending him lets us go and get a proper third striker or a proper fourth striker, depending on how incompetent Taremi is, that would be the position of the squad I'd prioritize more. But you can't lose assets for free when you're at a club in as poor a financial position as us. And I'm even more pessimistic than you. I think the max offer we're going to get for someone like Dumfries is closer to 15 million with his contract winding down. And I know Inter fans don't want to hear that, but we've already lost a lot of leverage, letting these negotiations get to this point, and his value is only going to go down from here unless we extend him.
Yeah, I
I
think
don't want to hear it.
I think the issue is the money he wants. So it's not like a decision Inter can just make that, okay, should we renew or not, because we can't renew him at any price he asks. And well, the rumors are rumors, but apparently the demand has been 5 million net, and I think that's just too much for Dumfries. But let's see. It's gonna be interesting to see how it's going to go, because I think there's gonna be, at least Fabrizio Romano has said or tweeted that there's been a lot of interest from EPL for Dumfries. But then the other angle is that will Dumfries wanna leave at all? But that's all about the money. It's the numbers which decide this whole thing. But I wanna ask Irfan, what's your thoughts about the overall performance of Darmian and Dumfries this season in general? How did they perform the right flank?
I thought they did pretty well. What intrigues me about the Darmian Dumfries kind of combination is that my view of Inzaghi has always been that when he plays Dimarco, he really relies on that left side being the more attacking side, and he tends to be a little bit more conservative on the right side then and play Darmian in a lot of cases. I don't know if this season it just felt like he didn't play Dumfries nearly as much as I think all of us were expecting. I think Darmian got a lot more minutes on that side. Now, it might have been because of the contract situation or because of injuries here and there, but it just felt like we didn't see as much of Dumfries as maybe we could have or should have. And so I don't know if that speaks to, again, Inzaghi trying to create some sort of balance in the wings and knowing that Dimarco is, a force going forward and combining with Bastoni. And so he wants a little bit more kind of defensive acumen on the right wing back side. So he played Darmian. Um, so I think, I was expecting maybe a little bit more from Dumfries this season than we got. And in some cases, he was just so effective and so good. And, obviously against Milan and what he did to Theo is something I'll always appreciate about him. But I don't know, for some reason, it just felt like a little bit of an underwhelming season to me for Dumfries. Darmian, I
Agreed.
think Darmian, I think is just the quintessential kind of team player. He's just such a great, um, reminder of the kinds of players that can really put in quality performances later in their career if they're in the right system and given the right kind of position and given the right opportunity. So I think Darmian is in some ways beyond reproach for most Inter fans, given I think what a lot of us expected from him. He's like the perfect kind of utility player, right? That you can kind of plug in a lot of places, and he's never dominating a match, but he's also never like the poorest player on the pitch. And he also has this knack to come up with big goals and big goal contributions as well. A lot of times, like we'd be struggling, and all of a sudden, Darmian would show up in some big way. So I think he had a pretty good season, especially now that he's more and more becoming like an aging veteran. And I think overall, I don't have a lot of complaints from the wingbacks, whether it's the left side or, as we're discussing now, the right side. But I think it's just going to be intriguing, kind of what we end up doing with Dumfries, like you guys were talking about. I think that's going to be the main kind of situation here, because if we do sell him to the EPL, like people are saying that there's some interest for him. If we do sell him to the EPL, it just kind of becomes another player that you have to replace, because there's no way we're going to go into next season with, Darmian, Quadrado, and Buchanan as our like, 2 or 3 options. Like that's just not going to happen. So if you do get rid of Dumfries, you're going to have to buy somebody else, and I just don't know from a cost benefit standpoint if that's going to make a lot of sense. But yeah, I guess we'll have to find out.
Yeah, and I
That
actually wanted to get Miko's thoughts on this as our advanced scouting experts. Like, if Miko, if we sell Dumfries, who are some names you'd like to see us consider bringing in to replace him?
oh, that's a tough one. I have really no idea. I don't know who could be from
Lazari.
Seria. Uh, Maybe Belanova for 20 million. I don't know. That's really that's a tough question. I really haven't paid too much attention to any options we would have. I would honestly think we would, if we are going to sell Dumfries, I wouldn't be surprised at all if we like just extend Quadrado as you guys mentioned, and that would be pretty horrible and quite a risky in a sense that Quadrado just missed like most of the season because of a long injury.
So
So
you don't want to extend someone who plays zero defense and is always hurt. Pussy.
yeah, I don't want to do that. But quick comment on Dumfries. I remember he actually mentioned after Scudetto parties that he had these injuries throughout the season, or just kind of some kind of a nagging injury which bothered him. So maybe that was the reason he didn't play that much as maybe expected. But yeah, Darmian was reliable for us for the most part, or well, like 99% of the time anyway. But yeah, I don't know if you guys have any any better options for Dumfries, I'm I'm open to hear them.
Uh, Obviously, I do not know every player who plays in this league, but I do find the Villanova comments somewhat hilarious because would right wing back be solved if we just extended or exercised our option to purchase him? Or I think we got into this a little bit after the Torino match of maybe he needed the minutes at Torino to really grow into the player he's become. But it sounds like this guy's going to get called up for Italy's national team this summer, and now he might be one of the three best right wing backs in the league. So we identified the talent, we just didn't nurture it, and now we might need to sign someone like him and try to actually produce them this to go arounds.
Standard Inter.
I actually remember now that there was some rumors of Di Lorenzo linked to Inter, but I don't know, was that related to his
Standard
contract
Inter.
status? Yeah. Well, you wouldn't take Di Lorenzo.
Yeah, no, sign the declining 30-year-old coming off the worst season
But
of his recent memory. That's
but
classic
the,
Inter.
but the question is, you wouldn't take him, or would you?
The
For free.
problem with Di Lorenzo is I am yet to see a situation where De Laurentiis sells a key player, let alone a captain, to another Italian club at a reasonable price. I would not pay 20 million for Di Lorenzo.
Yeah, of course, but I think it was okay. He extended the contract, I think. I remember the rumors was something like he would be a free agent, but maybe I was mistaken. But yeah, okay, let's
That's
scratch
Taremi you're
that.
thinking of.
No. It was Di Lorenzo. But yeah, I don't know. It's a tough question.
Look, if we had ambition and we had money, we'd just go and sign someone like Jerome Frimpong mighty from the mighty Leverkusen, who are the real Inter. But yeah, as we know, we have no money, so looks like, I mean, we don't have. What can I ask? Where are we actually going to spend some money this mercato? Considering that we've been told allegedly that we don't need to make any significant sales. We've already signed a significant player in Zielinski,
Taremi.
who
Oh,
yeah, sorry, in Taremi. Zielinski should be a starter. Look, if Mkhitaryan is still starting next season, despite us having both having both Zielinski and Frattesi in midfield, I'm going to lose my shit, okay? But the point is, which position in this squad needs like a significant reinforcement of over 30 million for a player? Last season, we did it twice. Once at right centre back for Pavard and once in centre midfield for Frattesi. And Thuram, I guess, although a free agent, was, earned significant commission as a free agent and is one of the highest paid players in our squad. This season, as mentioned, already did a Thuram with Zielinski, which kind of leaves us with some money to spend, I think. And if we have enough money to buy or to drop about 30 to 40 million on a player, would you guys look for a right back in that price range?
I don't know. It's a good question and set up perfectly well. I do think we're probably going to spend some money on goalkeeper. It might not be 20, 30 million. Hopefully it's not 20, 30 million, but I think we will spend some money in goal. I don't know if they're going to go in with Summer and Adero next year again. Summer will probably be the starter, but I think we should bring in somebody else that can compete with him and might be a more long-term kind of prospect. Maybe right back. I don't know. I mean, in a world where we sell Dumfries and you could conceivably, comfortably then spend, the money you get for him and then maybe some additional money on a right wing back replacement, that would be good. I think we still need to figure out some kind of long-term solution for center back. Like that's the one position, especially given the way we kind of operate, that I can see us spending money on like a Buongiorno or somebody like that. Obviously, I think all of us would love to spend some more money on forward. But we've definitely taken this quantity over quality approach. Even if Sanchez leaves, we're going to have Arnautovic and Taremi and everybody's favorite prodigal son returns from Marseille as well. Even if he probably won't be playing on the club next year, but we now have essentially 5 forwards that we have to deal with, of which 2 of them are quality and the other are just kind of there. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I don't think we'll have heavy expenditures at forward. I do think we'll probably spend some money on the center back position. And then other than that, I think your point is right that right wing back seems to be the other position that we need. I don't think we need to spend money in midfield. So maybe goalie, right wing back, in that order, and center back, I guess.
Maybe we just forgot Buchanan because he's been now used on the left, but maybe we can check if he can play on the right, which is his natural position. So that's one option as well. I don't know.
Having
I
seen the
think
way he plays on the left, I just assumed he couldn't play on the right.
I don't think that's the assumption you should make, but or you should have. But yeah, maybe they're gonna check Buchanan in the summer. Is he going to respond well, and they are checking him now and try to figure out if he's ready for the job. That would be the true inter solution. Just spend nothing on that position and go with what you have at the moment. But yeah, I don't know. That would obviously then change the dynamics on the left flank with the Augusto, Bastoni, Dimarco triangle. So yeah, but I would say that's one possibility at least, that Buchanan is considered as the not that as the starter, but Darmian would be the starter, but then Buchanan as the backup player, hopefully taking the starting position at some point. But I think that's a long way for that to happen.
This Buchanan nonsense reminds me a lot of Inzaghi's first season, where we all spent the offseason assuming, okay, Dimarco is going to come in and Dimarco is going to be a left wing back. And then for reasons I will never fully comprehend, Inzaghi spent an entire season deploying Dimarco exclusively as a left center back, despite the fact he has absolutely zero defensive abilities and talents, especially as a 5'8" center back. So then we pretty much lose the Scudetto in part to Dimarco's inability to properly defend from left center back. And then the next season, Inzaghi pivots and says, you know what, let's try this guy as a left wing back. And now he's one of the best in the league. I'm not saying Buchanan's going to be ever be one of the best in the league, but let's just play this guy in his natural position and see what happens. To Irfan's point earlier, it seems like, based on the media reports, that the big money position we're targeting is center back, right? We're being linked to Torino's captain, Buongiorno. He's someone who's going to cost in excess of 30 million. I don't know, once you add in counterparts, what the true cash out the door would be. But it kind of seems like that's the position management is targeting as the big money expenditure, which is a little curious unless De Vrij leaves or Cherby leaves, because you only really need 2 center backs, and we never want to see a Cherby play left center back again. But yeah, if I were to bust out a crystal ball, I'll say center back is the place we're spending big this summer. All right, let's do Lazio then. So Lazio are playing as we speak against Empoli. It's been a disappointing season for Lazio. They, of course, sacked Sarri a few months ago, replaced him with Tudor, the old Verona and Udinese coach. They're fighting tooth and nail to try and get into the Conference League at this point. I think I guess they're safely ahead, so they're fighting more for a Europa League spot. It's not the Lazio team we're used to seeing. We've talked about this before, Jay. This is kind of the end of a Lazio cycle So maybe since we care a little bit less about this individual match, what do you think we're going to see from Lazio this summer in terms of step forwards? Like, do you think this is a year Immobile leaves and they do a complete reset?
They should. Having said that, Lazio is one of those teams where it's always a mystery how much money they have and don't have. I think they spent a decent amount on that Tati Gonzalez guy, or whatever his name is, from the MLS, and I don't think he's really been that great, at least from the games I've seen, and his goal scoring record is nothing special. So, and then of course Daichi Kamada was a massive flop as well for whatever reason. So they kind of already tried to do a bit of a reset last season, but failed. And having lost Sari, which I think was a important piece, yeah, it's like a reset of a reset, if you know what I'm saying. So I honestly don't know. Luis Alberto seems like he's leaving as well, based on some messages he posted on social media. If I'm not mistaken, he kind of just said it very openly that he would be leaving, which begs the question: where is he going in that case? Hopefully not our city rivals. But yeah, they're a team in flux. As for our game against them, I think they're pretty over the season at this point, despite the chance of qualifying for the Conference League and the optics and the fact that the fact that Lotito will be able to say to the fans, "Are we qualified for Europe at least in some capacity?" I don't get the indication that the players themselves are truly believing in that, nor do they really want to. So I expect to see a pretty lackluster Lazio when we play them next week, and even more so if they fail to beat Empoli today. So yeah, if I'm not mistaken, that will be our last home game for the season. So let's put out our strongest lineup, blow them out of the water, and end the season on a high note.
Yeah, I think we can safely assume we're going to get a full strength starting lineup heading into this match. Final home match send off, give the players various applause. Of course, there's going to be a trophy celebration after the match. We're going to officially receive the Serie trophy, the Scudetto. Miko, how do you stay out of vacation mode watching this game, just knowing you're going to be coasting to the finish line of what's been a long season?
Yeah, I would like us to win that match, obviously, but I want us to put on a show for the home fans for the last time this season. So no reason to play any kind of lackluster type of games anymore and just crush them. But I was checking that if Lazio wins Empoli now, they are winning 1-0 at 86 minute, and if they win, they secure the Conference League spot. But I guess that's not too relevant to anyone. But I was thinking, can they make it to the Europe League actually from the 7th spot? But I'm not sure how that works.
I also
How the
don't know
rules
how
work.
it changes if Atalanta wins the Europa League and goes to the Champions League. It's pretty confusing with all these European competitions ongoing, to be honest.
Yeah, actually, it goes if Roma is fifth and Atalanta is sixth, and then Atalanta wins Europe League, then there's gonna be 6 Italian clubs in the Champions League, and then Lazio will definitely go to Europe League, I think, because the
And then
cup
they'd get
winner.
knocked out by some Israeli team.
Yeah, but because the cup winner has one Europe League spot, but there's Juventus and Atalanta on the cup final, so they are locked for Europe League or better. So that's why I'm thinking if Lazio is locked for the Europe League as well at 7th spot. So if they win this match they have at them against Empoli now, which is pretty soon over. But yeah, so they might not have anything to play for in this match, but let's see. It should be relevant. Do they have anything to play for or not? We should win them anyway. And like you, who was it who mentioned that we should play the first lineup and just win the match, play our regular game and be done with it.
Irfan, anything you want to add on Lazio?
Not really. I mean, Lazio's always been kind of that thorn in the side, annoying sort of team. I expect them to be that this time around too. I think we've had good success against them, especially recently, but they're always a team that I get kind of irritated playing. And they always seem to have some players that completely overperform when they play us versus when they play literally anybody else, especially Milan. So I don't know. It'll be an interesting kind of match. I'm curious again to see kind of what Inzaghi does in terms of the starting lineup. We'll see kind of who he runs out there. And I think like most Inter fans, I'm pretty checked out of the season now. I still stand by the fact that I would like to see the younger players play, even if it means sacrificing some quality and sacrificing the result, possibly. So, give me another 90 minutes of Frattesi and Aslani and Bisek and Buchanan. Please put Thuram out there though as well. Clearly, we need something on the forward line. I don't want to see another Arnautovic Sanchez start again. So let's do something like we did last time, and see what we can do against Lazio. Definitely put in a good performance, though. Hopefully the guys will be fired up for their last home match, and regardless of who's on the pitch, hopefully we'll see a pretty good performance to kind of round out the year.
Of course, Inzaghi's track record against Lazio has not been great. In the past, he's been our manager for 3 seasons now, and he has split the league matches with Lazio the past 2 seasons. This is his first chance at pulling the double. We'll see if he's finally able to get the job done. Jay, give me a prediction for this match.
2-0. Goals from Lautaro and Thuram. I think that was what happened in the reverse leg. So I'm I'm guessing a repeat of that result down to the scorers.
Miko?
Let's go with 3-1. We're gonna somehow concede first, but then we roll over them and finish the job. And let's give goals to Ram. And Lautaro won't get a goal. He's in a drought now. And then Frattesi will get his goal, and then Arnautovic is gonna finish the season strong.
Not Buchanan?
No, not this time. He's not gonna play at all.
Buchanan scored both his first and last goal for Inter against Frosinone.
One can hope, yes.
Irfan, go ahead.
I'm going 3-0. I'm feeling positive about this. I'm gonna go with an Aslani hat trick. Just kidding. I'll go 3-0. I will stand by my 3-0. But I'm gonna say Thuram,
Buchanan,
Quadrado,
Buchanan,
and Pavard. I think I'm gonna go with Pavard. I think the guys really want Pavard to get on the score sheet. I think he's gonna really want to get on the score sheet. So I think they're gonna try to feed him and get him a goal, which would be great. So I'm gonna go, Thuram, Buchanan, and my boy Quadrado. It's not a season if we don't see him doing his signature samba dance in an Inter
salsa
kit.
dance, the corner flag.
Exactly.
I unironically was going to predict a Quadrado goal this game. He's getting a lot of minutes. I feel like it's just coming. So yeah, give me a 1-0 Inter Quadrado game-winning goal. All right. The audience wants what the audience wants, and what the audience wants is a Jay's Hot Betting Tips for the Coppa Italia final this week.
So, if I'm not mistaken, it's Atalanta against Juve, is that right?
Correct. Scamacca is playing.
You'd have the enthusiasm of Atalanta's current form, where they're in not 1 but 2.
Interjection, Scamacca is not playing. He's disqualified because he took a yellow card.
Oh, in that case, Juve 3-0.
Wow, Juve romping coming.
Juve 3-0. Vlahovic 3-0. To show who the real stud is. Now, that's a big loss. I didn't know that. I'd really like Atalanta to win both finals that they're in. and I'd like them to pile on the misery for what is already a very miserable season for Juve. But it's times like this when Juve just pull one out of the arse and win some shit game, 2-1 or something, you know what I mean, with a late goal from Bonucci or not Darmian, what's his name, Danilo or something like that, or Rugani. So I'm going to be optimistic, and I'm going to say Atalanta win 2-1. Goals from Lookman, Vlahovic, no, not Vlahovic, goals from Lookman, Chiesa, and then a late euphoric winner by Coop Miners, who celebrates in tears knowing that he is joining Juventus anyway.
I was fully expecting you to give a nod to Milan prodigy De Ketelaere, who surely will score the game winner.
Yes.
That would have been predictable.
I'm waiting for his quote about how it's true what Hakan said, that when you play with quality, you end up playing really well.
Who was that? Brahim Diaz?
Yeah.
He was actually really clutch for Madrid this season.
Oh yeah, dude. I have a good friend who is a hardcore Real Madrid fan, and he was saying that Brahim Diaz has been a very important player for them kind of throughout the season.
Yeah, I mean, this is the champion's DNA. Where do you think he learned that? What do you think he got that mentality?
Milan is just a good feeder club, not a destination.
Fair enough. Now, I'm going to watch the Coppa Italia game. I'm really, really hoping for an Atalanta win, but like, all jokes aside, I reckon it's going to be real tight. Like, I can see 1-1. Like I said, I'm hoping for a 2-1, but 1-1, 2-1, that's where I'm leaning. What about you guys?
I don't know, honestly. I just don't want Juventus to win, so I might tune in just to watch in that sense, but can't say I'm very emotionally invested in it, to be honest.
Well, Andrew doesn't care now that Scamacca's
Yeah,
not playing.
now that Scamacca's out, I'm conflicted, and I've lost all faith in the world. I didn't realize he was suspended for this. He tweeted out something hilarious I think yesterday. It was basically just a picture of him making the most exasperated facial expression possible, saying something to the effect of, when you have 2 finals upcoming. So surely I thought he was participating in said final. But I desperately want Juventus to lose this game. I want them to walk away from the season with 0 titles. I want Allegri to leave in shame. So yeah, I'm really hoping Atalanta give it to them. So give me 2-0 Atalanta.
Doesn't Allegri leaving open the door for a certain Thiago Motta?
Yeah, I don't want him to leave anywhere. But
well, I'm assuming he's gone, so I want him to leave in shame.
He's gone. He's gone for sure. But I want to comment. It's insane how they can disqualify players for the final. I remember they removed this rule from Champions League like over 20 years ago because Nedved missed the final against Milan. And
what are you talking about? Thiago Motta missed the final against Bayern Munich.
Did he?
He did.
But
yeah,
it was because the red card.
Yeah, it wasn't because of the accumulation back to back. It was because he got a red.
But now it was the accumulated yellow cards, which is insane rule. They don't like wipe them out at some point of the competition.
Wow,
but
so Scamacca is suspended for the final for an accumulation of yellow cards. Really?
Yep.
That's
insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm gonna go with 2-0 Atalanta. Juve is just shit. They continue to be shit.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll leave it there. We'll be back next week with a Lazio recap. We'll recap, I don't know, I guess defenders. And then we'll also talk about the last match of the season against Verona. So we'll catch you all then. Thanks for listening.
See you later.
Thanks, everyone.
Catch up.